So, in this book, you will discover an interesting story that Tarrasch, when both Maroczy and Tarrasch were at this famous tournament in Hastings, Maroczy won his group, which was, I think, Group C. So obviously it was not the master group, but it was really a good result. And Tarrasch invited Maroczy to a tournament in Nuremberg on next year, and told Maroczy, I give you this book that now you see by Tarrasch, because if you study it well, you will be really strong. So imagine how lucky we are today that when in one book they talk about another book, I immediately have the other one. This book is made by 300 games by Tarrasch, and I think it was one of the fourth books that Fischer studied. In any case, now let's go back to Chess Warrior, the Life and Games. I want to show you another game by Geza Maroczy. The game I'm going to show you is game 21 of the book. It is between Adler, white, and Maroczy, black. It was played in Budapest. It was an English coffee house game. It was played on March 5th, 1896. And the opening is the Budapest Gambit. What is the Budapest Gambit? Let's see. C4, knight f6, d4, e5. Okay? Here there is a note that says this game would demonstrate that it was likely Maroczy who first played, by transposition, the defense name after the Hungarian capital, Budapest Gambit. There were those who call it a gambit, and some even call it Breyer's brainchild. However, since it was not a game played under tournament conditions, and Maroczy himself published it almost a half-century later, he did not claim that the defense should be named after him. Okay, so let's continue to see the game. D takes e5, knight g4, knight f3, bishop c5, e3, knight c6, and queen d5. A real amateur move aiming to hold onto the material. Queen e7, knight c3, knight g takes e5, bishop e2. It seems it was better to play this at this point because it would prevent problems, okay? So bishop e2, let's see what happens, d6, and knight e4. This is already a mistake, although the queen is misplaced on d5 in other lines as well. Bishop e6, queen d1, and bishop b4 check. Maroczy does not snatch the c4 pawn, and he proves to be right. Bishop d2, castle, bishop takes b4, knight takes b4. And here there is queen b3, which is a dubious move. He should have exchanged on e5 fourth. Knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, a blunder in light of black response, though it seems to be quite logical. So what would you play now as black? Because here there is a diagram, okay? So try to think what would you play as black. d5. White's position starts to crumble after this and soon collapses. It seems not to have wanted to lose a pawn. Knight d2, d takes c4, knight takes c4, another blunder, rook d3, and probably it was stronger to play this. Okay, so rook d3, queen a4, bishop takes c4, queen takes a7, knight c2, king e2, and here there is a checkmate. Can you see the checkmate? Try to think a second. And here it says, one can smell the scent of coffee in the air. Let's see. Rook d4, checkmate. I hope you enjoyed this game. Obviously it was a quick game, but as I told you, there are many interesting stories and games in this book, Chess Warrior, The Life and Games of Geza Maroczy.